And CoI this Minister, and very best wishes in the new role. Initially I thought it was a pity that the terms of reference were not ready for today, but I can accept that there is a vital need to get those terms right, and I do hope that the coming months will see that, and there'll be greater clarity when we come back after the recess on those terms of reference. I want to acknowledge the work of those individuals and support groups who have been working tirelessly on these matters over the years, pursuing justice for the women and the children and the families involved, both in Ireland and abroad. And I think that the recess, when you are working on those terms of reference, while that's ongoing, it will be an opportunity for those of you working on this to meet those groups in the interest of justice and getting it right. Because what we're talking about is from a dark time in our history when there was little or no regard for women and children, especially women and children from poor backgrounds, those with mental health issues, and very especially children who were born outside marriage and their mothers. The men are missing from that picture, not accepting responsibilities of fatherhood, and the men who were in the picture are those who are responsible for putting daughters and wives and mothers and sisters into the institutions. I think it's also an opportunity to learn from the mistakes and the gaps of previous inquiries, because there were omissions there. There were drawbacks in both the McAleese and the Ryan Commission. So from that point, I do think that all parties need to be involved and all documents have to be released. I did support that the Magdalene Laundries be involved because of evidence uncovered by organisations, especially Justice for Magdalenes, that evidence from oral testimony that babies were born and babies were nursed at the Magdalene Laundry in Sean McDermott Street. They also uncovered Department of Health archives biannual reports which had information on 26 children in the Tuam Baby Home 1953 to 58, for whose whereabouts of parents it's recorded as mother in Magdalene Home and or mother in the Galway Magdalene Home. And also children were, quote, maintained at Tuam by both Galway and Mayo County Councils. And we do know that it was state policy in 1933 that unmarried mothers who had given birth a second time would be transferred to a Magdalene Laundry. So there were connections between the Magdalene Laundries, the mother and baby homes, auxiliary homes, and the county homes and hostels. So there have been calls for all these to be included. However, two of the organisations most directly involved, Justice for Magdalenes and Adoption Rights Alliance, have taken a slightly different approach, which I think is sensible. And what they're advocating, they're calling on the Commission is to focus on the issue of children born out of marriage in Ireland since 1922, rather than focusing on the institutions per se. And they have identified various fields of inquiry. Infant mortality rates, because there are concerns that there were higher rates of infant mortality in the homes than in society generally. Issues of vaccines and medical experimentation, and also included in that would be the denial of adequate medical care in these places. The forced placing of unmarried girls and women who had given birth or who were seen to be at risk of giving birth. And then there were the conditions for women and children and the use of punishment. And we do know that there are a lot of criticisms about the McAleese report on that aspect. The issue of adoption. I've seen the evidence that was found showing homes were involved in adoptions to the US. And I have read correspondence between the homes and the Department of Foreign Affairs, which makes for really grim reading. So focusing on those areas will bring the Commission into the various institutions involved. We don't want after this Commission that there will be inaccuracies or gaps. As has been discovered again recently, the McAleese report found 61% of known entries spent less than a year in Ireland's 10 Magdalene Laundries. But the Names Project from Justice for Magdalene cast serious doubts on this when they looked at the electoral registers with Magdalene grave records. So their research reveals issues around exhumations at Hyde Park, records with the Good Shepherd Laundry in Cork, etc., etc. And also, the McAleese report didn't make findings on conditions and treatment, and I do think that is owed to the women who were in the laundries. Criticisms have emerged about the report already, and I do think criticism has to be listened to. But very particularly, I think the voices of those affected have to be listened to. And that's the voices of the women and the children still surviving, the voices of those who have been campaigning and supporting on this issue, working for many years. And all of that is about uncovering the truth and getting to know the truth. And while we can be ashamed, and we are ashamed of what happened in the past, we can't be afraid afraid of facing it and facing the truth. And while it is a cliche about truth can set us free, I do believe in it, and I do think that that is what is owed to those women and children, because they've been denied that truth, and particularly truth about their identity, for so long. So I wish the Commission well in its work and your work in this over the coming months, that the job will be done properly and comprehensively. So it has to be independent, it has to have statutory powers to compel evidence, all records have to be available, there has to be trained people, archivists or historians who are looking at that. It has to be transparent and, of course, obviously sensitive, because there are so many of those aspects that are extremely sensitive. And above all, accountability. We have to face up to the past, and we have to accept what happened. Thank you.
Great.